In today's video for the first Descendant, I'm going to be going over the very best weapons that you can craft, make, grab hold of in Season 1 and which ones I believe work out the best overall for damage and how I'd personally place them. Now, as we all know, there have been a lot of changes to the first Descendant and Season 1 has spiced a few things up, but the weapons in general have mainly stayed the same with just how kind of good they are. But one of the things they have said going forward is that there's going to be a lot of changes coming up, and some of which are definitely going to be to those ultimate weapons. However, with everything that's going on, I think that'll probably be more aimed towards Season 2, but for now we'll be jumping into the most powerful weapons that you can create and how I'd personally rank them. So coming in at number 6, and this is one that would not have made the list except for Season 1's update, and that's going to be Piercing Light. This sniper rifle is really nice, it really is. I personally would have actually put the other one on the list before this, the Afterglow, but with Season 1 hitting, this one is now better than ever. The main reason for this, you're probably going to be using it for a bit of a stat stick for Hayley. It gives her the most damage overall, so if you are aiming towards using her, this will definitely be one worth using. But as you can see from the stats, it has some really nice damage to it, with both great firearm critical hit rate as well as some really nice weak point damage. It also comes with Purification of Light, which basically means when you're hitting a weak point, it's going to inflict Dispel, which can be really nice on some of those Colossi, and it also has an additional perk where if you're managing to hit multiple targets at once, you've got a really high chance of it critting, sometimes up to 100%. This sniper in general is a lot better than I gave it credit for, and after using it for a little while I can definitely see the advantages of it. And like I said, if you're aiming for Hayley, which is one of the strongest Descendants currently in the game, then this is definitely a weapon you'd be advised to invest some time into.
Mission complete. Thank you.
Jumping over to number 5, and for this one, if hand cannons are your thing, then the ZRA Devotion is definitely worth your investment. This thing hits like an absolute truck, it looks awesome. It also recently, if you wasn't aware, got a massive buff to it, and now it's even better than ever. The firearm attack to this is quite nice, but the main thing you're going to be after for this is going to be the firearm critical hit rate, which has now gone up to a massive 45%. Also, critical hit damage is 2.25, again, very high, making this an absolute monster for anyone who's got a bit of accuracy. Definitely someone who's better than me and can pull off some headshots whenever they want to. The perk it comes with is going to be Fanaticism, which basically means when you hit a weak point you're going to inflict Devotion Mark on the enemy, basically knocking down its defences, so this makes the weapon really nice solo but also great for team play. Also, if you want to, you can also hit an ally with this and then it's going to regen a bit of their shields, but it is going to cost you a little bit of mana. Most time this function is kind of overlooked, I must admit, but if you're after popping off heads as well as knocking off a bit of defence, then this weapon can definitely be a go-to choice. From a slow pace, take your time, try and get a headshots type of weapon, over to one of the most rapid fire ones in the game, and this time we're going to be looking at the submachine gun, the Python. This thing is ridiculously fast, it just absolutely empties your clip, so you may want to make sure you've got a bit of extra rounds going on somewhere, because at 923 fire rate, it's one of the fastest firing weapons currently in the game. This one centres not so much around crit point damage, instead you're going to aim for those weak points, so it can be again very nice for those Colossi battles, and the perk it comes with is going to be called Python Instinct. On hitting a weak point, it's going to inflict the ability Prey on them, which is going to help to reduce their non-attribute and toxic resist. This can be a really cool feature in the hands of some people, and this works best on any Descendants that can really take advantage of it, such as someone like Lay, or other than that, probably someone like Freyna. Definitely a weapon worth using, but one much more focused on single target takedown than multiple targets in general. Over to number 3, and if multiple targets is something you're trying to take down, then still holding its own in the tier list, and of course still one of the best weapons in the first Descendant, has to be the Thunder Cage. This thing has been very good since the launch of the game, and it completely holds its own even there. In fact, personally, I'd say this is still by far the very best gun if you're trying to just take out enemies and have a lot of ease running through missions overall. Nice and easy, you can hip fire this, you can spray and pray, you can just burn through enemies very easily and fast, and it does exactly what it's intended for, which is to take out groups of enemies but not be absolutely amazing single target. Now for the Thunder Cage, the perk that it comes with is going to be called Overcharge, and when you're defeating an enemy there's a chance of it doing a kind of electric explosion which can help to decimate some of the enemies around it. As you boost this up, it's going to get even larger and it hits even harder, and this is one that if you're trying to invest in, it's definitely worth it because you're going to get a lot more damage from it. Overall, like I said, still definitely one of the best weapons in the game and works great on almost any Descendant if you're just trying to clear through the content fast. Coming into our complete top dogs now, and we're kicking it off with number 2. And for this one, we're going to be looking at the Greg's Reverse Fate. Greg's Reverse Fate was an absolutely mediocre to not that great weapon earlier on, because the special on it only unfortunately procced when the enemies had their shields. You would hardly ever see this thing working, and the gun went completely under the radar because of it. But with its overhaul now, I think everyone probably would have heard about and seen it in missions, because it does a massive amount of damage, is a lot of fun to use, and kind of bridges the gaps between single target and multi-target from just how much damage it does from its bombardments. One of the really nice things with this as well is that you kind of build it a little bit half and half, because it goes into a bit of weak point as well as a bit of crit damage. But the main thing you're after is as much firearm attack as possible, as that's what boosts the overall perk that's on this weapon, the Shaping Destiny. When you're hitting an enemy, there's going to be a chance to proc those bombardments. You're going to see it very often. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to absolutely decimate foes at pretty much any range. The only thing you've got to be careful of, sometimes they can move out of the way of them just before they hit, but this also works really well on some of the toughest enemies, such as the elites, and of course the colossi, as long as you use them at the perfect moment. Try not to use it constantly, because it will build up the rage bar on those colossi very fast, but if they're in that down state or there's someone on the shoulder, this is one of the best go-to weapons to currently use in the game for damage. But for me personally, coming in at that number 1 spot, let me know what you've put, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of people telling me I'm wrong, but I have to put it there because I absolutely love this weapon, and that's going to be the Enduring Legacy. Just so easy to use, does a lot of damage, has some crazy fire rate on it. It can get a massive magazine size, allowing you to just wreak havoc on bosses, enemies, whatever you want to take on, and I find it just one of the easiest and most well-rounded weapons currently in the game. This one comes with the perk Craftsmanship. On hitting the enemy, it does kind of several things. One, the trigger effect of whatever you're hitting it with works a little bit better. Most times this is going to be fire, however, though, because that's what works best hand in hand with this weapon. It's also going to inflict quenching, which means that when you are hitting the enemy, you're also going to knock down a bit of their fire resistances, again allowing you to do a bit more nice overall damage. And when enemies are set on fire, you're also going to get a nice bit of firearm attack on the weapon, allowing you to hit a little bit harder. Overall, I find myself going back to this and using this weapon on almost all of my Descendants whenever possible, except for probably the likes of something like a bunny, because that's not going to work very well. Other than that, this weapon works absolutely amazing in all areas of the game, and it's just very easy to use. As well as that, I find it to be very accurate and nice and easy pinpoint wise, so it works absolutely amazing in pretty much every area of the game, no matter what you're trying to tackle. But yeah, like I said, this is my list. That's how I'd rate them currently at the moment. In the future, I know Nexon will be changing a few things up, and they've said they'll be revisiting some of the ultimates, as they're not functioning as they're hoping so far, so I'll let you know whenever they change things around. But yeah, as always, for all things gaming, take care. I'll see you on the next day.